All right, so this is the early December forecast analysis, where I'll sort of be breaking down a couple of forecasts over the next 2 weeks or so, and looking at some of the patterns and seeing, when we might be lined up for some decent snowfall ahead of Christmas. These 2 weeks are super crucial for the rest of the season, building a good base before, the typical heavy snowfall months, January, February, March, is super, super key for ski resorts and backcountry alike. And backcountry, there's a little bit more to it with right side up and upside down snowpacks, but here we'll just be focusing on just pure snow quantity. So I'm going to queue up. This is the GFS forecast. This is geopotential height, which is based off of elevation of like pressure in the atmosphere, and it is strongly correlated with storm patterns. So the darker blue it is, the stormier it'll be. So this is sort of looking big picture. This is all in North America here. Like where might we see some storms? Not exactly exact snowfall, or we don't know how strong they'll be, but we can get a pretty decent idea of sort of when they'll be rolling through and where will benefit the best from these storms. So first, let's just look big picture. This is today. This is being filmed at about 12 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, December 2nd. So you can see, pretty dry, high pressure here. But coming in early next week, we have this little storm that sort of gets California a little bit, but then sort of dissipates, and then it meets up. It sort of curves back and meets up again right here. So this is December 10th. So we can sort of be expecting some sort of system here to be moving through on the 10th, and then this continues to move westward, sort of still lingers in California, so California could see some decent totals. Also getting into Utah, the Tetons, the Rockies, and that storm that meets up with it is coming right down through the Pacific Northwest. So you'll notice if I go, this is on December 9th, and then it hits the Pacific Northwest, and then sort of moves through and is replaced by sort of drier, calmer conditions to meet up with this storm in the south. Then from there, those continue to sort of move southwest down into Mexico. But this is going to be covering, anywhere from Montana down to New Mexico, even parts of northern Texas. Not a lot of skiing there, but New Mexico could do pretty well with this storm. Then straight after that, we have another storm sort of moving into the Pacific Northwest here. This is December 14th. This just barely gets, northern states. You'll see the Sawtooths in Idaho, the Tetons in Wyoming, northern Rockies in Montana are going to do pretty well with this storm. And then that sort of extends further down into Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico. So Arizona Snow Bowl, Taos, New Mexico, southern resorts like Telluride are going to do pretty well in Colorado. And then there's a big storm that's rolling in here. And this is the storm that we're really keeping our eyes on, because these last two storms will not really be dropping a ton of snowfall. You can see they're pretty weak, but you can also see that the closer to land this storm is getting, the more it's strengthening. So it's pretty weak up here, up by Alaska, and as it moves down the coast, it's picking up more and more strength. It's getting stronger and stronger. This is the storm we really have our eyes on. This is going to be the moneymaker for Christmas. We're really hoping that this sets up a good base layer for Christmas. So, this is probably going to make landfall in British Columbia and Washington somewhere in the vicinity of the 15th-ish to the 16th of December. And this is going to be a pretty strong storm. This is going to benefit the Pacific Northwest enormously. This is going to drop some really nice totals there. And as it continues to move across, it stays pretty strong throughout all of the Intermountain West. So parts of the Sierra could get some snow, but really what you're looking at is strong patterns. You can see right there, hitting the Wasatch in Utah, the Rockies, the Tetons, Northern Rockies, Sawtooth. Anything in that dark blue path there is going to do very well. This is a very strong storm. We're hoping for good snow totals with orographic lift and such, but time will tell. This is, again, it's a little bit too far out to be exactly with 100% accuracy if this is going to be a strong storm or not, but we could tell there's likely going to be a storm here. And it continues to move sort of diagonally, as a lot of storms have this year with La Nina. There's sort of been a high pressure system sitting right outside of California, forcing everything north, and then the jet stream picks it up and takes it down through the Pacific Northwest and over, and then up to the northeast. So that is certainly going to be something we're looking for. This storm here, sort of December 17th, 18th, 19th is the dates we're looking at, and then it continues to move further south down to into, again, Taos, New Mexico. New Mexico has done actually fairly well in the last couple of weeks in terms of snow, surprisingly. Then from here, it's a little bit too hard to tell, what comes next. You can see a system sort of forming up here. And if that were to materialize, this is December 18th. So if this were to materialize and get stronger, it would probably hit the Intermountain West somewhere within, 3 or 4 days of Christmas. So that could be, potentially, depending on winds and strength of the storm and such, and sort of where the jet stream takes it from there, that could be a powder day on Christmas. That is fairly likely to bring some snow on Christmas. Again, way too far out to tell. But we will probably have a decent idea whether we'll have a white Christmas or not within probably a week or so. Within a week or so, we'll know if this storm is materializing and coming down through the Pacific Northwest. You can sort of, with the lines here on the geopotential height, you can sort of see the jet stream, right? So it comes right here. And notice how it's almost completely avoiding California. This is why California's been so dry this year. So far, they've had a couple big storms, but other than that, it's looking very, very grim for California until Christmas. Whereas, the place to be for Christmas is definitely Pacific Northwest. They're going to get hammered with snow over these next couple storms. Other than that, Utah's going to do well. Tetons are going to do well. Colorado's going to do okay. Not as well as Utah or the Tetons or obviously the Cascades. But, Colorado is still a better bet in terms of snow than California. But you can sort of see the jet stream here carrying down here. And recently, like I said, the jet stream's been dipping fairly far south. So New Mexico's actually been doing pretty well over the last couple of weeks with these southern tracking storms. And you can watch the last video I have on my YouTube channel where I made some predictions maybe 3 weeks back or so about a storm that hit New Mexico pretty hard. It took a very southern track. So so far so good on accuracy this season. This is going to be the third segment of the series, sort of breaking down the analyses. And so far, things have been pretty accurate. Not necessarily with, exact snow totals. Nothing's accurate with exact snow totals. But figuring out when storms are going to hit, this series has been a success thus far. So that's sort of big picture looking at things. We're really looking at a decent storm on the 16th through the 18th here in the Pacific Northwest, Utah, Colorado. Other than that, we have some supplementary, storms coming through. And, we're just keeping our eyes on this storm up above Alaska, some maybe materializing and coming right around Christmas. So that's sort of what we're looking at thus far. Looking at exact snow totals, let me just zoom out here to the continental U.S. Like I said, so this is December 5th, 6th. You can see that storm sort of hits the Pacific Northwest. This is the one that sort of hooks back out into the Pacific. Drops a tiny bit of snow there in California, but like I said, it meets up with this second storm. So you can see the second storm. This is total snow accumulation, by the way. You can see that second storm comes here, and it meets up with that southern storm. This is that southern storm. If you run it back, you can see the snow totals start to appear down here in New Mexico. That's that southern storm, and then they meet up right around Colorado, Utah, Nevada area. So California could do okay with this storm, about a foot probably, with wind loading, probably skiable snow over rock there. But not a ton for California. But it meets up again in Colorado and Utah, and it could drop some decent snow totals in Utah. So I'm just going to zoom in here on the southwest so we can see in a little bit more detail, right? So that storm hooks south, and then that northern storm and them meet up right there. And that's where you start to see some of those snow totals. So let's look at some of the snow totals here. So, around the Cottonwoods, not as much snow. Surprisingly, it's going to be focused on southern Utah, which there's not a ton of skiing down there. It's pretty flat. So, 2 feet for Utah, pretty good. And again, that southern storm, the jet stream's been forcing things pretty far south. So southern mountains are going to do better than northern mountains here. So, up by Steamboat, you have 10.8. But down by, Telluride and the San Juans, you have 24. So that's a pretty big difference. 100% difference or more is a pretty significant difference. And again, down in Arizona around the San Francisco peaks here, Mount Humphreys, and this is Arizona Snow Bowl down here, you're getting pretty good snow totals. So like I've said over the last couple of weeks, these southern tracks are going to favor southern resorts more, right? So southern Utah, the southern San Juans down by Telluride, the southern areas down by Arizona Snow Bowl are going to do relatively well. And then more, moderate areas, Aspens here, Vails sort of here, they're going to do sort of in between. They're going to do okay. They're not going to do great, but they're not going to do terribly either. Since they're sort of right between the north and the south of these systems, so right in the middle. But looking at the storm, the Tetons are not going to get as much as we were hoping for. But they do quite well over the next couple of weeks here. So you see this system coming in from the Pacific Northwest, right, moving down, and this is going to bring some pretty decent snow totals to the Pacific Northwest, right? So we're starting here at 9 inches, then after this storm sort of rolls through, we're at 31. So that's going to be, 2-foot storm in spots up by in the Northern Cascades by Mount Baker. We could see probably a foot or so in the Olympics, and in the Southern Cascades, probably 1 to 2 feet again. So that's going to favor the Pacific Northwest. This storm completely misses California. Just the very, very northernmost parts of the Sierra get a tiny little dusting, but other than that, not much. Right, so the storm continues to move through, and here's where we see the Tetons pick up a little bit more snow. 4 or 5 more inches on top of that last storm. We see Utah pick up a little bit of snow here. We see Colorado pick up some more snow. And again, this is not very accurate, but this could see maybe 2 to 3 inches picked up. This is Monday, December 14th. But this again, and lingering snowfall around there. And just a quick note on the east, 5, 10 inches in spots. 10 should be the max for these couple of storms. Not doing great this season, as we know, but there is still hope. There's a long season ahead. So the lingering snowfall from the storm will still bring probably just about, total, this storm system will probably bring about 50 inches to the Northern Cascades. Northern Cascades is the place to be. I've been saying it all season. I've been saying it since July when we learned about how strong this La Nina pattern is. Pacific Northwest is the place to be. The jet stream is concentrating all the moisture on the Pacific Northwest. Things are looking very, very favorable for the Pacific Northwest this year. Colorado's doing okay, because the jet stream is coming down here and then looping up, and that's why California is doing so bad. But the storm, as I said, the storm we really have our eyes on is that storm from the 16th to the 18th. So you can see it make landfall here, moving down through. It sort of hits Utah on the night of the 16th, so the 17th should be a decent powder day. Let's look at sort of the snow totals here. I'm going to zoom in again on the southwest region. I'm going to skip ahead to the 16th, so you can see it you can see it sort of hit the mountains of Utah right there. And this storm will also be somewhat favorable for California as well. Finally, the Sierra getting some snow. So let's look at California here. Total over the course of the storm, the most they'll probably pick up is, if we wind it back before the storm, this had, trace amounts of snow, 3 inches. So this could be a 15-inch storm in spots. Very localized pockets on the windward side, so the western side of the Sierra could pick up, some decent snow totals, upwards of 15 inches or so. But the average is probably going to be a little bit less than a foot across all of California. Then above Salt Lake City here in the Cottonwood Canyons, you have 10 inches before the storm. Storm rolls through, beefs that right up to 29. So this could be pretty decent. A foot or more, foot to 2 feet. Once again, the San Juans are doing very well. Southern tracks, been saying it. Starting with 24 inches before, and that number gets beefed right up to 31. So again, another decent storm here for Telluride, San Juans, and Aspen's going to do relatively well here too. 24 inches, so starting to get up to sort of what Telluride has. Just 7 inches shy or so. But Utah's going to do nicely here. The storm isn't as southern as the last couple have been. The Arizona Snow Bowl and Taos and Arizona and New Mexico in general are going to pick up a little bit of snow, but not as much as we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks. So that sort of leads us to the end of the forecast. So sort of just to summarize things, and I'll pull up a map here. This is total snowfall over the next 2 weeks or so. You can see the hotspot place to be. Unfortunately, Americans can't go to British Columbia. That would be great. Whistler's going to do well. Revelstoke's going to do well. Sunshine Village, Banff. Everywhere up there is going to do well. Sunshine Village and Banff are over here, actually. But other than that, the places to be, Cascades. 73 inches over the next 2 weeks. That's quite a bit of snow. That'll form a great base. In the Southern Cascades here, you have, up almost 60 inches. That's 5 feet of snow. In northern Utah here, or sorry, not northern Utah, northern Idaho here, you have 40 inches, right? Up by Ketchum and Sun Valley could do pretty well, 30 inches or so. California is not going to do great. There will be a couple of somewhat deep days, 6 to 12 inches, but that is not going to be building a very good base because the temperature is going to be very hot. That snow is going to melt out really quickly on south and west faces, and really not enough snow to be building a good base into the the main season. And other than that, you have spots. The Tetons are getting about 2 feet. The Wasatch and mountains of Utah could see upwards of 30. Aspen area, Vale area could get a little bit more than 2 feet. Telluride could be approaching 3 feet, which is pretty decent snow totals. And once again, these storms recently have been picking up some decent snow down south in Arizona and New Mexico. Then other than that, you have not promising snow totals for the east. The most in the east, probably about a foot, I would say. Not good skiing in the east over the next couple of weeks. So that sort of sums up the snowfall analysis for the next couple of weeks. And these are really crucial weeks, as I said, to set up a good base for the rest of the season. So obviously hoping for the snow totals to exceed what the forecast says, but hopefully that gives us some sort of an idea of what this season's, what the next couple of weeks are going to look like in terms of snowfall.